tomatoes, pruning them and squash. I've had some experience and I get to show you. So, this leaf here got all sorts of brown on him. We're going to take it off. Pruning shears. Mainly because if we had a knife, let's say this is a knife here, and we try to cut this, let me show you. Try to cut this here, there will be some extra damage along the leaf. But these, take these, snip, there we go. Drop it at the base of the plant, all the way down there. So that way as it degrades, as it decomposes, it'll feed the plant. Here's another one. He's got some brown on him and some bug holes, so I'm going to chop that off too. Now why do we do this? Why do we take a plant that Yahweh has created and cut it up? Well, a few reasons. First, a disclaimer. This plant can survive just fine on its own. But my job as a steward is not to leave stuff alone. Imagine if you went to a company and you said, I'm going to trust you with my money to invest it. Your job is to make more of what I have. Now here's the money, I give it to you, and in a certain amount of time, I expect a certain amount from it. People have done that for thousands of years. Christ even told a parable of it. I think it usually goes by the name of the parable of the talents. A man goes on a journey, and before he leaves, he gives his tenants, his servants rather, a certain amount of money. A talent at the time was their word for a very large sum of money. It was like a year's wage for a laborer. So to one servant who he knew he could trust, he gave 5 talents. And to another he gave 3. And to another he just gave 1. And he left. The guy who had been given 5 talents went out, put the money to work, and made 5 more. The one who had 3 talents, who had been given 3 of these large chunks of money, he went and put them to work and made 3 more. And the guy who had been given 1, he didn't like his master, so he went and took the 1 and he buried it in the ground. When their master came back and asked them what they had done with the money, the guy who had 5 talents and had made 5 more brought the 10 talents to his master, and he said, hey, here's what you gave me, here's what I made, here you go. And the master said, you are a faithful servant, these 10 talents are yours, come and celebrate with me. The man who had been given 3 talents, he said, here's the 3 you gave me, here's the 3 I made, these are for you. The master said, these are yours, come and celebrate with me. The man who had been given 1 and had buried it in the ground said, here's the one you gave me. I buried it in the ground because I don't like the way you do things. So here's your money back. And the master said, you are a faithless servant. Even if you didn't like the way I did things, even if I am a bad person, it's still my money. And you still work for me. Couldn't you have taken this and put it in the bank so that when I came back I could have gotten it at interest? The idea with this, with the parable Jesus told, is the idea that when Yahweh gives things to human beings, to those who serve him, the idea is not for us to just hang on to them or just set it aside somewhere. We are stewards. We are meant to take what he has given us and to make something better from it. So, Jesus wasn't quite talking about tomato plants. But if I am a steward of the Lord Jesus Christ, a steward of the things that he has given to me, I am his servant, and he has entrusted me with a tomato plant, my job is not to look at the plant and say, oh, the plant is there, I'm going to leave the plant. Bye. My job is to say, I'm going to watch, I'm going to observe, I'm going to pray, I'm going to think about this, I'm going to learn, And I'm going to make what I think is the best decision based on all of these things for how to make the most of this plant. So that is the theological principle behind pruning. Now, the practical principle behind pruning. Practical principles of pruning. Somebody could make an article on that or something, but I'm not going to. So, the plant can survive fine on its own, but its natural instinct is to put off as many branches as possible, grow as many leaves as possible anywhere it can grow. Problem is that takes a lot of energy and a lot of resources, and many of those leaves will die. Many of them will grow over each other. Now, of course, leaves have to pick up sunlight. So if a leaf is here and it's not getting any sunlight because it is shaded out by the other, the leaf is not, it's taking the same amount of resources, but it's not giving nearly as much. So it needs to go. Doesn't need to, I should say, in order to do what is best for the plant, to best use those resources. If it is messed up, I don't know if you can see this here, but this has some brown on it. So all the leaves, all the energy that was going into this leaf, which has a problem, are now going into this leaf, which will serve the plant better. Sometimes they will have suckers, which I'll show you later in the video, and we cut those off because it's trying to grow two branches when one is fine and the other one needs to go. Now, to avoid giving a foul hand gesture here, I will reverse these. So this one's fine. This is the sucker, needs to go. So this one gets all the energy, and it's going to give that energy back to the plant in the form of sunlight. Now, in order to get up close like this and be able to move around and such and get really close, I had to move to the iPhone to do this. So, pardon the shakiness and the lower quality compared to the previous video, but I considered it best in order to show you how to do this. See here? It's got a couple, let me see if I can focus. There we go. Got a couple of spots on that. I don't know if that's disease or damage or pests, but I'm going to cut it off. And you want to make sure you get a clean cut. So there's one leaf, there's another leaf, there's a third leaf. This is the only leaf that has a problem. So I'm going to get in here and snip. There we go. You do not want jagged edges. You want, like I did here, a clean edge. There's a similar principle with suckers, like we have right here. So the suckers will grow anywhere along the plant, really, but you follow the main stem. So let's start down at the bottom. This main stem goes up, kind of gets lost. Hi, tomatoes. Up here, where's that main stem? Main stem. Let's see. Main stem. Hi. Stem. Stem. Ah, it splits off here. I forgot about that. Here we go. All right. So let's get close. Get close there. There we go. So the stem, there's the main stem. There's the branch that comes off like this with the leaves. And then there's this little guy in the middle here. Right here. Now he is going to try to make more leaves. Now the problem is, this is never going to be as sturdy as this. Here, let me be more specific here. So this guy needs to go. Now what we do here, well actually, these are too big and clumsy for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers, I'm just going to pinch, boink, pull him off like that. So pruning can be one of those things that looks ruthless, but it really is calculated and gentle. Like with that sucker that I plucked off there. I don't want to do damage to the rest of the plant, so I can't just pull it off. I have done that before as I was learning to do these, and I would peel off strips of the skin of the tomato with it, and that's not good because, like our skin, it's the first barrier against infection. So you want to preserve. The point is not get rid of the sucker. The point is help the plant. Now I'm going to move over to the next bed where we have the squash, and I'm going to show you how to trim and prune squash. Pruning squash is a bit different. It's the same in principle, but it's a bit different. For this, these are a completely different type of plant than tomatoes. The tomatoes grow up. Where are those there? There we go. The tomatoes grow up and they vine and they support themselves. These grow along the ground. They don't really support their own weight. So we need to take that into consideration. So this one here has a hole in the leaf. That's bugs. I want to get rid of that. I want to remove their food source. Bugs attack when they are stronger than the leaf. Every plant has its own set of chemicals that are in leaves to prevent insects. So an insect will come when it determines that it is easy enough to try to eat this. So this leaf is damaged. It's surrounded by healthy leaves, so I'm going to cut it off. I am going to use these because these are fairly thick stems. So if I tried to do it with my fingers, I would break it off. So let me show you how to do this. There's the central vine that this is supporting, or is supported by. I don't want to come and do this because the weight is evenly distributed along this vine so that it holds up the vine and holds up the rest of the plant. I do not want to remove its stability by cutting it off down here. I also want to be careful when I cut not to cut the blossom, because that, if it gets pollinated, will become a squash. And as you can see here, we have a squash. It's about that long already. I want that for this, so I want to make sure not to cut this. There's another blossom. This could produce a whole bunch of squash if we let it. So about 4 inches up, cut it. Put this aside. Now I'm going to take this and turn it face down right underneath the others. Make sure it's not on part of the plant, but underneath it, so that as it decays, it will go into the soil, which these are feeding off of. Also notice what this has done. This has allowed, now this is in total shade right now because this is evening, but in the morning, this and afternoon, this will have so much more sun because it was covered and now it's not. Also, it allows airflow underneath the plant, and it also allows the bees to come and get to this flower when it's ready. I see another leaf where the bugs have been at it. Let's see what we can do here. This guy. There we go. See all that damage? About 4 inches up. Cut that. Turn it over. Put it under there. Look how much it has opened this up. There's that little leaf that can now get sunlight. There's a couple of 3 blossoms actually. Can you even see that? I'm sorry. Can't see that. Leaf, blossoms. Open it up, get more sunlight. Good stuff. One more thing to look for, yellowing on leaves. I'm not exactly sure what it is that causes leaves to get yellow. Usually it is age or some sort of deficiency or a problem with them. So I'm going to turn the camera around so you can see this here. So as you can see here, it's normal for the leaves to have a little bit of yellowing. Now, there's sunlight and there's covering up the sunlight. So it's normal for them to have a little bit of yellowing. But this guy has about a 1/4 inch on the edges there. So I'm going to get rid of him. I'm going to cut it about here, and look how much that will open this up. Another thing, this guy, let me cover up the sunlight there. Look at all this. So I'm going to cut that up and leave that open. I will probably remove this guy as well. This has plenty of leaves. This will be okay. It'll open it up for this guy. So that's it, pretty much, as far as what I am doing for the particular plants that we have. Other tomatoes may need different attention, and different types of squash will definitely need a different approach. I was watching one video from a quite experienced gardener who has a different pruning method for summer squash, things like zucchini and yellow crookneck squash, the soft squashes that don't have a hard shell, as it were. And those definitely do have a different pruning method because they're more bushy. They grow up, and you can plant them close together, and they grow over each other, so airflow is much more important. With these just grow along the ground. There usually isn't as much of an issue there. A lot of what we're doing is learning as we go, and if I learn anything else, I will definitely put that in the videos. But today, doing what I know to do, which is pruning tomatoes and squash. And one last thing, you don't have to do this if you have tomatoes and squash. It is not like it is going to die. It'll be okay. These are things you can do to make it better. You're taking it from spending resources on 50 leaves and taking it down to 45 or 40 leaves with the same energy and resources, so that it can stay healthy and produce better and more fruit for you, which is mainly why we garden. We're growing food. And it doesn't take too long. I think that if I come out here every day, I think it takes 15-20 minutes, but that's because I'm learning. I imagine as I go along, it'll probably be snip, 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 and be done. Next we'll be going over to beans and just snipping off leaves. I don't know. If you know better, leave it in the comments below. This is a learning process.